Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your daily dose of zombies news from the game and its community here on COD Zombies HQ. Thank you so much for tuning in today, where Treyarch has revealed their plans for step 1 of their attempted Vanguard Zombies comeback story. The only problem is, like we predicted beforehand, it likely won't be enough. So without further ado, let's kick things right off with our first story of the day. The reveals for the DLC content coming to Vanguard Zombies with Season 1 pretty much line up exactly how we expected them to, with some actual unexpected surprises that will be coming later in season. But with the new content coming this week, Treyarch announced that the new objective that will be added into the game will be called Purge, where Treyarch says that there'll basically be small areas on the map that can only be stopped by capturing powerful control runes. But be aware, the augmenters will spawn waves of enemy zombies as a defense mechanism as you attempt to purge them from our dimension. The description for that objective sounds familiar. That's because this objective, Purge, is actually just renamed from the leaked Domination objective we found in the game files when the game was released, where it's basically just capturing a flag, holding out in a small area until a bar is filled, then wow, you've successfully purged the objective. Not exactly the most creative in terms of objectives, but to be honest, are you really surprised? Next up, Treyarch is advertising that there's 14 new Covenant upgrades included in this update, but that's just clever marketing speak. There's in fact only 5 new Covenants, and they're just including the different rarity levels as different Covenant upgrades in the marketing. They did reveal what the actual Covenants added into the game would be. A few of these are going to be familiar to you. The first one is interesting. It's called Brimstone, where you deal damage to nearby enemies. It comes in a rare, epic, and legendary rarity variant. So my guess is this is just like an area of effect damage radius around you that will constantly damage enemies when they're close by to you without you actually having to do anything. It could be an interesting Covenant. It depends on how much actual AoE damage you end up doing to the zombies. If it's just like a small tick every second, it probably won't be worth it. Next up, Deadshot is making its return here in Vanguard Zombies, where they describe it as aiming down sight, snaps the crosshair to the headshot location on enemies, bonus damage on the first critical for each enemy, and it removes weapon sway. It comes in a rare and epic rarity, and another example of a perk that has been repackaged as a Covenant here in Vanguard. And speaking of repackaging, the next Covenant will also be familiar to you. That's because Deadwire is returning in a rare, epic, and legendary variant. Where it's classic Deadwire, it stuns enemies and nearby enemies. It doesn't actually mention that it damages those enemies, so it seems like this version of Deadwire might just stun the zombies with the electricity but not actually hurt them at all, unlike, past versions of Deadwire, making it significantly less useful than past versions. And continuing on the trend of repurposed perk effects, the next Covenant will be called Scrapper, where you gain more salvage from pickups in the rare and epic rarity variant. Then in the legendary tier, you gain more salvage from pickups and objective rewards, essentially just being one of the perk tiers of death perception back in Black Ops Cold War, repurposed and stripped down for the Covenant system here in Vanguard. Lastly, for the new Covenants, there's one called Swift Vengeance, where you deal more damage the faster you move. It activates shortly after you start moving, and you're able to fire while sprinting, which was an effect of Speed Cola back in Black Ops Cold War. And then the legendary variant, it activates immediately upon moving. It's essentially the opposite to the Covenant in the base game of Vanguard Zombies, where you do more damage when you're standing still. This one, you do more damage when you're moving, with the added benefit of being able to fire while sprinting, which honestly, with how much you actually have to move in Vanguard Zombies, is a very beneficial effect. Next up, Treyarch will be adding quote-unquote new weapons into Vanguard Zombies. The first is the DLC weapons added within Season 1, the Cooper Carbine, the PTRS, and the Sawtooth Melee weapon, which will all end up being added into the mystery box later in the season. But along with this, and I can't believe this just wasn't in the game at launch for some reason, they're now advertising that all 4 launchers will be available in loadouts and the mystery box for zombies at the start of Season 1, adding another layer of strategy for surviving Cortifex's legions. Have no idea why the launchers weren't just included in the zombies mode. It just seems like a no-brainer. Maybe it was just an oversight on Treyarch's part, but How do you leave that out? Don't know. Either way, it's going to be added with Season 1. Also, continuing the trend that started in Cold War in the form of season challenges, where within Season 1, there will be 20 new season challenges to complete that do end up rewarding you with XP and calling cards throughout the season. So that's everything they announced to be released at the start of Season 1, and to be honest, it's underwhelming, but we expected it to be underwhelming, so it is what it is. But the more interesting part of the reveals come, and what they revealed is going to be released later in season, apparently, within Season 1, which will be sometime in January of 2022, where first of all, they revealed something that we didn't know about that wasn't leaked beforehand, that they're calling the Tome of Rituals, which they describe as your artifacts will be able to grow in power through the Tome of Rituals, offering greater Dark Ether abilities to aid you in your survival. With the release of Vanguard, we noticed that the field upgrades or the artifacts in this game just simply aren't that great. They fall short in every way compared to their Cold War variants, and they just make them a lot less interesting as they're a lot less powerful to use in this game. It seems like they're bringing that upgrade system from Cold War into Vanguard Zombies using this Tome of Ritual function. We don't know if it's going to be like Cold War, where you can upgrade your field upgrades or artifacts out of game, and then each time you play zombies, they'll start upgraded, or if like the Covenant and Perk system, this is something that you'll have to upgrade every single time you play a zombies match, as it can be only upgraded when you're in the hub area of Anfang, not when you're just in the main menu. Next up, they say that Von Lith's office will be opened up in the hub area, which, by the way, if you weren't aware, is already on the map. It's been on the map since the launch of the game. It's just blocked off. A player managed to get inside of this area we covered in an earlier video. If you want to see what it looks like, it seems like they're just artificially keeping this area closed off for whatever reason. They describe the area when they do decide to open it up as, quote, "Few know what Von Lith is hiding inside his personal quarters, but it may offer clues as to Cortifex's plans. Dark secrets may also be waiting behind a mysterious new portal." So it seems like when this area opens up, there'll be a new portal, some kind of objective here that might be related to the first step of the eventual main Easter egg coming into Vanguard Zombies, but hopefully it's interesting and this new portal won't just be a random new objective. Maybe something a little bit more substantial than that. Next up is two things that I really thought would be released at the start here of Season 1, but apparently they're coming next year. The first is support score streaks, which include the War Machine will be available to craft at the crafting station, or you can get them through the mystery box. Only 2 score streaks apparently are going to make their way into the zombies mode. I was hoping there'd be more than just that. Only 2, and 2 that we've seen before in zombies throughout the years. Kind of disappointing once again. Also later next year, they say that new weapon challenges will be coming to zombies. There'll be mystery box weapon updates, where they talked about earlier they'll be adding the season weapons into the mystery box. Server pause functionality isn't going to be in Season 1 at launch. It's going to be coming next year. It's just insane. I mean, we can talk about the lack of development time and direction, but the fact that server pause won't be in the game the year the game released is absolutely inexcusable, and I can't believe it's still not going to be figured out at the launch of Season 1. And they say that later, probably in a week or two, they'll update the hub area of Anfang to include, quote, "festive new holiday theming." Essentially, the expected release of Jingle Hells here in Vanguard Zombies. Overall, there is a couple of decent additions here, but it seems like most of the most interesting content won't be released with the start of Season 1 and instead is coming sometime next year. In yesterday's video, we talked about what Treyarch has to do to turn the narrative around of Vanguard Zombies, what they can do to save this game mode. We predicted that Season 1 wouldn't do that, and from what we know right now, it appears like that's the case. It's also important to note that with the inclusion of the Purge objective, or Domination as it was leaked in the game files, it basically confirms that the other new objective that was also in the game files there, called Assault, will likely be coming within a future season of content here in Vanguard. It seems like it's already completed, but they're just waiting to release it. Another interesting thing to note on the same line there is we didn't get any mention of new game modes that will be coming to Vanguard Zombies. Obviously, references to Jingle Hells, the Cranked game mode, and Gun game have been found in the files, although with Treyarch Treyarch not mentioning anything having to do with new game modes in this Season 1 update, we can also theorize that they're just going to kick the can down the road and include those new game modes too as part of some kind of later season update. But that does wrap up the news today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Hey, if you enjoyed it, consider hitting that thumbs up button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would expect with the release of Season 1, they'll also be releasing some new patch notes into Vanguard Zombies, hopefully containing some buffs and weapon tuning adjustments that we've been hoping to see in the mode, but we're gonna have to wait a few days to see if Treyarch is going to do that. But until that time, I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll see you with another Zombies news video tomorrow. Peace.